Buenos días. Ayer hice un video en que empecé. Oh, yesterday, I'll start in English. Yesterday, I did a video where I started in Spanish and I kept speaking Spanish for 2 minutes. So, just so you know, the video from yesterday, which was the 27th, I think today is the 28th of June, that video ends up in English. After 2 minutes of Spanish, the rest of it is in English. I switch back. I realize I'm speaking Spanish, and I switch back to English. So if you could watch that one, I would appreciate it. That's the sort of the beginning of this one from today. And today is, I'm going to talk about groups in regard to rewards and punishments. Rewards and punishments are not just in the family, but they go into large groups of millions of people, and they can affect systems which are necessary, or parameters which are necessary for millions of people, but it isn't necessary to have rewards and punishments. You can have parameters without rewards and punishments. When the rewards and punishments come in, problems start. And the more intense the rewards and punishments are, the worse the problems are. I'll give an example of something which was very international, and it was NAFTA, the agreement between Mexico and the United States, where products could be sent back to the United States without paying, without any taxes on them. This was put in by, the United States, an agreement between the two countries. And certain companies were rewarded and others were punished in the process. The big companies who could move to Mexico and start sending their products back to the United States without paying taxes, getting the benefits of being in Mexico, the environmental benefits, using the environment, I suppose they used the environment of Mexico while they were there, and also the cheap labor, which is human resources, natural resources and human resources. This was a big reward, shall we say. And the companies that were smaller and didn't go to Mexico, they were punished because they had to, if they were in the same field as the other one, they couldn't compete very well. That was their punishment. So that's an example. Now, why do people get addicted in the first place? Well, when they are first rewarded, even as children, the first reward, it's immediately addictive because it feels like it's an illusion of love, a reward or a punishment. Same thing. You've heard probably parents say to their children, "Now, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't punish you." So it's an illusion, as if that were love. Actually, it's manipulation. There are these, in groups, these rewards and punishments, as I say, in groups, large groups. And when they are in these groups, there is a pattern which comes into as to the limits that a person goes to within these different systems. Rather than saying groups, I'll say within a system. There is a parameter from over which a person would not go without either a reward, or sometimes people are within that group without a punishment, shall we say. If you go beyond that limit, you get punished. Or within the group, you are rewarded for certain things, so those certain things start increasing, and they increase so much that it becomes imbalanced. The group, it affects the situation by causing imbalance. The things that are rewarded, there's too much of. The things that are punished, perhaps there isn't enough of. And so it causes an this equilibrium within systems. And very often this is based in illusion. For example, the punishment of war. Do they always call it war? No, they might call it, as I think Ronald Reagan said, call it peace through strength. Peace through strength, something like that, with strength. Well, war isn't peace and war isn't strength. War is destruction, the opposite of both of those. But it's an illusion which is used in the process of these punishments and rewards. Another example is in the economic system. There is illusion within the economic system, as in the GDP. For many years, the counting has not included the cost of the loss of natural resources, which happens when production takes place. This has not been counted, so that causes an illusion where we think, an illusion, sort of love. We think we're getting better and better because look at how high our GDP is, when actually we're getting worse and worse because we're losing so much value in the natural resources. Another example is the credit boom that they had in Mexico again. I was in Mexico, so I became aware that the businessmen and all the people were very happy that they had the illusion of love when that credit first started coming, the credit cards, into Mexico. And then all of a sudden the credit came due and the illusion ended like a bubble being popped, and everybody was into semi-despair. The atmosphere was completely different because the loans or whatever the credit was came due, and it was reality hitting after that, just like a drug addict after he's on a high and all of a sudden reality hits when his drug wears off. That is the kind of addiction that rewards small or large. Drug, he probably feels he's being rewarded when he takes the drug. He feels like he's being loved. Large or small, they take us away from reality. And we don't want to go. We want to be in touch with reality. That is preferable. The different systems have these rewards. One of them is money. Another one is credit. Another one is in professions. And another is in language. They have these limits which can be affected by, well, the language is used for the other ones, in which at times they are rewarding and punishing within these systems. Those are just some examples of systems. In any system, what is the solution to rewards and punishment? The solution is, one solution is nonviolent resistance. Resisting the reward, saying no thank you. On an individual basis, that would be. On a group basis, it's an extremely difficult thing to do. It should be nonviolent, first of all, because you don't want to join the opposition and use rewards and punishments. If you're violent, you are punishing them. And that is what we're trying to get away from. So it should be nonviolent resistance. But in order to do this, you need to organize. You need to have a group. Well, it is a group thing, so you need to be organized within the people who agree with you on this subject need to be unified. They cannot be bought out. They have to be careful not to accept at that point, when it's a clear division between the two groups, not to be bought out by the other group through a reward. Certain members could be, if it's a small group, a member could be bought out, and that makes division within your group. So you would have to keep your group unified. That's an extremely important part of it. But the whole purpose is unity with your opposition. So first of all, in this resistance, before you ever start to resist, you have to first of all identify your problem. And that sometimes is hard to figure out what exactly is the problem. You know there's a problem, but what exactly is it? That can be hard enough. Then it's very hard to communicate with the opposition, because there are so many different ways of communicating, so many misunderstandings that happen between people, especially if they haven't been talking for years and now they need to communicate. And how do you start? And especially if one of them is very high up and you can hardly get an appointment with him to communicate with him, there are all sorts of difficulties within the communication itself. But the final thing is the resistance. And that is after you have tried communicating, which is very difficult. After you've tried everything you can possibly try with the communication, if it still doesn't work, then you get to the point where you actually, as a group, have to resist. But you're still thinking in terms of the well-being of your opposition, because what you want ultimately is unity among everyone. So you do not hurt the opposition in the process of resistance. You have to be careful not to hurt them. And if you think you're hurting them too much, you might actually have to stop your resistance for a while until you get a way of doing it without hurting the opposition. So that's just the beginning of the problems of trying to solve the problem of rewards and punishments in groups. And that's all for today.